a large number of folks there who will never return back to Earth?
No, they can certainly return. Some will return back to Earth.
They will choose to stay there for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, many will. But we need the spaceships back, like the ones that go to Mars. We need them back. So you can hop on if you want.
Yeah.
You know.
When do we start to call things a new style? For example, tutting, if you start to incorporate circles or triangles, things that don't, like shapes that don't incorporate right angles. What if it's lines, right? Like some people will just start to say that lines and things like that are part of tutting. But if we look at the history of tutting, I mean, if you want to go all the way back and you're talking about hieroglyphics and things like that, or fractal symmetry, things that have been around forever, and then human mimicry, as in like you see shapes and then you imitate them. Humic, that's a good word for tutting. Humic. So it's very hard to define things. So if we're looking at something and we're defining it by its attributes, by the things that we see, maybe tutting is not the best word for the styles that are being done today. And like tutting was kind of associated with popping, but popping wants to be its own thing, and waving maybe wants to be its own thing, and then there was this whole confusion of popping being an umbrella term. And well, if we want to start to define these things, how do we go about that? And so I love the discussion the other day. If you haven't checked it out, I think it's still on Animated Jay's page. But this idea, like for me, was tutting doesn't really have necessarily a responsibility to a specific style. You know, you could tut and crump, you could tut and whacking and vogue. It's just, it's geometry, it's lines, but then there's also like, how far can we stretch a style before we have to come up with a new name? And is it disrespectful to traditions to give it a new name? Or do we have a new name with references below it, as in, oh, this style was birthed out of this, and so we draw the lineage back? And I feel like that's kind of where we're at today, is that, you know, the music is changing, and the music usually motivates the style. And so we're kind of like importing these traditional styles into new music, but naturally the music kind of twists the music in its own way. And so we're left to think, you know, there's kind of like two sides. There's traditionalists, and then there's like contemporary people, and you have the people in between. And I think what is the importance in defining things is maybe it's not important to your art. But I think I struggle with it sometimes when I'm teaching, and it becomes maybe harder to explain in a concise way, because I might get a student that's learned from a bunch of different people, and I'm just trying to create a common understanding of what it is that we're talking about. And then it requires explanation of my philosophy of that thing. And so maybe this is way too deep, and maybe we should just dumb it down. That's what I get a lot. That's how I've been kind of brought up. So, yo, man, just dumb it down. They don't say dumb it down, but they say, man, you think too much. That's too, all those thoughts are going to inhibit your dance. And maybe it would, or maybe it is. Maybe it would enhance it. And sometimes people want to think about these things, and sometimes people don't. But this is just an open discussion. The question is, when do we name something new that stems from a tradition but has been twisted so much or done in a different way? that that requires a new name in order to maybe respect the tradition in which it comes from. So leave your answers in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. It's a hard one. So much love, y'all. Peace.